Showtime! The Capital G show starts right now.
What's up YouTube, Capital G here, talking about a new card that's going to be coming out in Crossover Souls, or as it has been renamed in the TCG, Cross Souls. And I'm probably not going to be using that name that much because to me Cross Souls just sounds kind of lame. This isn't a situation like Duelist Alliance and Duelist Advent where we had two different names. They both sounded really cool despite the fact that Alliance and Advent don't even mean the same thing. I don't know how the fuck that worked. Anyways, the card is called Galaxy Cyclone and it looks really good. This is looking like one of those cards that could definitely shake up the game a little bit. And by shake up the game, I just mean it's a card that is it should definitely see play in competitive meta. Now, when I heard the name Galaxy Cyclone, I immediately thought of Photon Monsters. And I was like, okay, maybe it's like Photon support because, you know, a lot of their cards have like Galaxy in the name, Galaxy Soldier, and, you know, all of that jazz. But no, to my surprise, it's actually spell and trap removal. And I was like, okay, that's cool because Konami has probably realized that, you know, everybody plays Mystical Space Typhoon, at least in the TCG, as pretty much a staple. They probably play it a good deal in the OCG. And if they're not main decking it, most decks are side decking it in probably multiples because it's pretty much the gold standard of spell and trap removal. But Konami has released, you know, cards that are not as good as MST but still have very good applications. And it's been, you know, cards that we play in competitive, you know, in competitive play. Cards like Twister and Night Beam recently. So this is one of those cards, and I'm going to go ahead and read the effect. It's actually really cool. Again, it's a normal spell. It says you can use the number 2 effect of Galaxy Cyclone once per turn, and I'll explain that in a second. Number 1 effect, target one set spell or trap card on the field, destroy it. Number 2 effect, during your main phase, except the turn this card was sent to the graveyard, you can banish this card from your graveyard, then target one face-up spell or trap on the field and destroy it. Okay, so this card is really good. First off, I love cards that have multiple effects. Second, I love cards that can activate from the graveyard because they're really hard to stop when you activate them from the graveyard. Secondly, it means that if your opponent hits your card with spell or trap removal, then you really don't have you don't have to worry about not getting any value out of that card. Thirdly, it means that you technically don't have to draw it to use it. Shout outs to Infernoids, right? Shout outs to Lightsworn and Infernoids in any combination of that deck. All right, so the first effect. This is very similar to Night Beam. You target a set spell or trap card on the field and you destroy it. Okay. What's really good about this is it doesn't have to be your opponent's spell or trap. I don't know if Night Beam specifically designates your opponent's spell or trap, but let's just say you're top decking with Cleese and you set Sacrifice on the board because realistically, if you're not in a great position, there's really no reason not to set Sacrifice. Maybe your opponent hits it. If you top deck this, much like MST, you can just use Galaxy Cyclone to set off your own Sacrifice. So it's good. I can't think of that many situations where you're going to want to blow up your own set card, but it is pretty cool to know that you can blow up your own set card. Obviously, Night Beam has the benefit of the targeted card cannot be used in response to Night Beam's activation. This card doesn't have that, but I think it still kind of stacks up because especially if you're going second where Night Beam and this card will probably shine. You know, if your opponent has and they have back row and you don't, a lot of times their cards are reactionary. You know, yes, there will be those situations where you may activate Galaxy Cyclone's first effect and your opponent flips over Skill Drain or they flip over Vanity's Emptiness and you're kind of locked out for a turn, and that will suck. But most of the time you're kind of just trying to snipe the Fire Lake, snipe the Alpha Nova, you know what I mean? I guess I can't really technically say snipe Mass Change because that's chainable, but you get what I'm saying. The Bottomless Trap Holes, the Torrentials, the opponent's MSTs, the, you know, Oasis / Call of the Haunted. Most cards that your opponent sets on their first turn are reactive cards, thus you can pretty much get value unless it's a Floodgate card. The second effect is what makes this card very good. In the main phase, except for the turn it was sent to the graveyard, and just about every card that has a secondary effect that triggers from the graveyard by banishing itself, Breakthrough Skill, Skill Prisoner, I think is the other one. Most of them have that effect where you can't use it in the same turn. The only one that doesn't, I think, is like Void Steer. Basically, you banish this card and you get to target a face-up Speller Trap and blow it up. Okay, this is really, really good because remember how I just talked about if your opponent chains one of those really good Floodgate cards, how you're locked out for a turn? Well, that's just it. You're only locked out for that turn. If a Klee player flips over the vanities and this goes to the graveyard, during your next turn, you just get to blow up the vanities. You get to blow up the skill drain. So it's like you're no longer getting shut out for the entire game, you know, hoping that you draw another piece of Speller Trap removal or something like that. What's also good about this is you can blow up your own Speller Trap. So again, if you need to go off on your opponent because you need to like potentially game them or something like that, because maybe you're in time, maybe you need to do damage, you can turn off your own vanities. You know what I mean? You can turn off your own skill drain Klee players so that you can actually use disc and, you know, summon a whole bunch of monsters. The fact that you can use it on your own cards is good. You can set off your own sacrifices if you just have like a monster with sacrifice on it and you're not drawing any of your Klee monsters to tribute, then you can just set it off yourself. You know, I like that this card outs all floodgates. I mean, it's so good. It's even if you miss the first time, if your opponent chains, you know what I mean, an Alpha Nova or something, down the line when they try and use that Shadow Mirror to lock you out, or they try and use that Vanities, okay, well, you can just activate this. And when I saw how incredibly powerful this second effect is, it totally made sense that you can only use this once per turn, because could you imagine if Infernoids, like, if you could use this effect 3 times in a turn, or an unlimited amount of times, I think that Infernoids could just, like, they could sack the hell out of you. Imagine if they just milled, like, 3 copies of this in their first turn, and then later you're trying to lock them out with Vanities or Iron Wall, and they're just like, pop, and then you activate another one, and they're just like, pop. You know what I mean? Like, you just get destroyed. And I also think that it's pretty important that you can only use it during the main phase, because imagine if you were going to summon like Big Chicken and you attacked and your opponent's like Call of the Haunted and you're just like, activate this guy during the battle phase. Like, that would be crazy. Either way, the fact that this card can be a +1 is insane. And if floodgates are not going to be a thing, maybe the potency of this card goes down. But I'm sorry, Crossover Souls, we're not that far out from that set, and I realistically can't see us not playing Vanities and Soul Drain and Skill Drain and, you know, cards like Shadow Mirror, Light Mirror. I can't see us not playing those. This can turn off Fiendish Chain as well. It can turn off your opponent's Call of the Haunted if they leave that monster on board and it still has the Call of the Haunted attached to it. Oh my goodness, it can turn off Snatch Steal. I just realized that you can get your monster back. Oh my goodness, this card is fantastic. I think I'm just going to make a bold statement. I think it's going to replace Night Beam because it seems like the upside, in my opinion, is way too high. You let me know what you guys think of this card. It's not going to be a common. This has to be at least an ultra. Thank you guys for watching as always.
Subscribing makes life happy.